Well, hi and hello. Welcome back. We are going to talk more this Monday. My name is Arianna, and I'm the founder and owner of More, where we are working to make opportunities reachable for everyone. And today I am so excited, edge of my seat, because we were just saying how long we've been chatting about getting together for this interview. I am sitting with, well, virtually sitting with Heidi Lopez, and we're going to be diving into cultural identity, experience, and design, and what that looks like when we create. Heidi, we got to connect because I was hoping to connect with more Latina designers, whether it be graphic, UX, etc. And so I'd love for you to introduce yourself. And I have a slew of questions, so I'm excited to be with you today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that great introduction. I'm Heidi. I'm very excited to be here. Coming up to a month of planning. So, again, yes, very excited to finally talk with you. Also, pumped to get into the questions. I'm a brand designer currently at Deloitte Digital. I was working in their New York office, but I recently moved to Florida. So now I'm full time in Florida. Um, and I'm very passionate about purposeful design. So there's always something to say. And design is also a great way to educate. Even when there's not a lot of things going on, there's always something that can be communicated. So very excited to get this started.
Yes, I love that. I feel like everything you just said, that's so well said. I've never really truly thought about how much design like opens the door to communicate in that way. And I love that. I also love that you're in Florida now from the New York office because those winters in the northeast quadrant of the states
Yes,
terrible.
very brutal.
And I mean in Florida, I feel like if they have snow, that like the whole city closes down. So like that
It
seems like
hasn't
year round.
snowed. Yeah, it hasn't snowed, thankfully, in Florida. It has been getting, like, very cold, which I'm like, "No, like, the sun needs to come back," but it's okay. I can do, a couple days, it's
Yeah. Do new Florida residents get like a warranty of some kind if you don't have X amount of days of sunshine that you get some kind of back?
we still get the vitamin D from the window, so it's okay. It's not as cloudy and as rainy as it is usually in New York or, like, all the way up. So, yeah, I think we're good.
That was awesome. Well, I kind of want to jump into what you just shared about loving purposeful design. Is that something that you found in college? Was that before college? Like, how did you come across that? Because I feel like purposeful design is something that I've been hearing a lot more of
Mhm.
post graduating, and I graduated in 2018. So I'd love to kind of hear about how that has been a driving force and how you came upon it.
Yeah, so a little more background. I started going to art school from fifth grade all the way till I pretty much got my master's. So I've always been kind of in that space of making something communicate through art. But it wasn't until I got to my undergrad, I went to Jacksonville University, and I started taking sociology classes alongside my graphic design
Mhm.
courses as well. So I double majored, and I just kind of like did that because I took a lot of sociology classes, and that kind of opened up my mind a bit more on how to be more observant as to why a certain group of people act this way. What's the driving force in this a specific community and their behavior. And I just got into like a lot more of like self reflection and why I'm doing art, which
Mhm.
I think I had that before, but it was just so surface level. But then once I got started and thinking about, okay, well, this is kind of my career, I really need to kind of build my own type of identity through design. So I thought, okay, well, what am I more connected with? And that's my own background, coming from two immigrant parents. My dad's from Colombia, my mom's from Peru. They came here when they were like 20, very young, and they kind of had to do everything themselves. And so having that as a great influence for me and then seeing that growing up, I wanted to kind of put that personality into my art and start thinking, okay, well, how can I use this to tell my own story as well? I surprisingly got a lot of encouragement. It's not a bad thing, but I got a lot of encouragement to get more and more personal as I got to my last year of undergrad. My thesis was about personalities and immigrants in general in the United States. And I got a lot of pushback because I was still like getting into like surface level and such. And my professors kept saying, well, like, what about you? Like, what about you? Like, tell me about you. And so I was like, oh, well, I don't know why. It seems like so simple of a question. Like, what about you? Like, why
Mhm,
aren't you doing, like, putting yourself in your work? And I
mhm,
thought, "Oh, I don't know, I don't wanna get too personal, like, I don't know, maybe I'll make someone feel uncomfortable." Um,
mhm,
but then after I started, like, interviewing I started interviewing myself, people, immigrants from, Uruguay, Honduras, Colombia, Peru, and, it was very life changing for me because I started to get more people's perspective on things and how these stories should be told. And it doesn't matter if I make you uncomfortable, that's kind of like on you. If you don't want to hear what I have to say, that's okay. Like, no worries. But that's not going to stop me from saying what I need to say, sharing these stories, sharing these communities. So I started getting a lot more into that kind of way of purposeful art because I'm showing and like giving voice to those who are, scared to even say anything because there's this like big mentality that, okay, well, I'm in the United States. I can't really complain about stuff because I'm here. Like
mhm,
I'm a lot better off than what I could have been in my home country. And so I
mhm,
feel like a lot of people are scared to even like be ungrateful or even share any stories or have it come back to them in a certain way.
mhm,
So I had the privilege to be able to kind of be a vessel for those stories and try and use my art in that manner. And I take it like very heavy because this is a huge responsibility, and there's not a lot of people. I've talked to many people, and it's hard to really ask like the best questions to get them to come out of their shell too.
mhm,
And it's also there's a lot of trust that you need to have as well.
mhm,
So it was a really really incredible experience, and it kind of blew up even more when I went to grad school. I got my master's in communications design, and I went back and did my thesis on Latin identities in a white-centered United States, and that kind of like just drove me into even more purposeful work and like why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I was able to interview three amazing university students from Brazil. There was one that was adopted by two white mothers, and so
mhm.
she was kind of dealing with not really truly knowing her own identity, and that was like a really big thing that she wanted to work through. And I was like very, again, privileged to kind of go through that with her as well. So that was great. And I was able to kind of like help her. Towards the end, she told me that I kind of helped her mentally go through some of the self doubt that she had while growing up. And she was able to kind of like let some things go, because I was able to make them like a journal so that they can write in, like do interviews, share personal stories, and she even shared like personal photographs of herself growing up with her family. So that was great, and honestly, I loved doing that work, and even working at Deloitte, there's a lot of great like purposeful opportunities to do great work there too. My first project there was on HBCUV where they're offering online degrees for individuals who want to attend HBCU but virtually. So
Mhm.
a lot of times there isn't like much opportunity for purposeful work, but I feel like sometimes like it's up to you to kind of make it there and like ask these different questions. And like you yourself are doing great purposeful work. I mean, you're connecting other people that have like similar backgrounds, but Latin people don't have that much of a voice as in before. But now, like creating these connections, creating these like podcasts and videos, like that just pushes us even more.
Yeah, yeah, and I love how much you talked about, I mean, we're talking about identity, and I think it's
Mhm.
so I mean, it's wild to me because you said that your professors were like, "Oh, come on, Heidi, like, what about you?" And
Yeah.
I feel like we are I sometimes think as women especially, like, we are so good about talking about other people or,
Mm.
like, raising other people up, but, like, when it comes to us, we're always like, "Oh, no, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it." And so it's so cool, even just, like, hearing your story and, like, hearing you speak about it, like, I imagine a few years ago, you did not speak about what you do and how you do what you do um, with the same confidence that you're speaking with it now. And so I think there's something so incredible about growing into the spaces that people are saving for us and the way that you are taking up space and saying, like, this is my story and I'm no longer worried if like my lived experiences make you uncomfortable because whether or not you're comfortable they happened and like it's part of who I am and it's part of like why I do what I do and you're creating that space for other people to step into and that's so beautiful and so I I don't want to say encouraging but like it's there is something so special about being somebody who hasn't yet shared their voice and
Mhm.
someone standing there, arms wide open saying, "Come share it," and,
Yeah.
take take that space, and so I think that's beautiful that you're able to do that in ways that help them grow into themselves, especially having, I mean, the gal that you were talking about having, like, 2 white moms and, like, not having, like, the same cultural identity as them even, and I think that, like, especially, my dad is from the Philippines and my mom's father is from Mexico, and so I think there's there's a lot, I think, as kids that we want to see of ourselves in our parents or our parents in ourselves, and so I think oftentimes, like, growing up, you kind of, like, find your identity through your parents,
Mhm.
and as you get older and you kind of step back from like that family unit, you get to actually discover like what is my identity and what does it look like as my own person. And I think that is such a cool journey that you got to go on with her as she experienced it because you don't know what you don't know. And if you only grow up like with your identity being kind of in other people, like that is earth shattering when you get to like discover your own. And I love how you've tied in like your career into that in such a purposeful way. That's amazing. What was the first can you think of like the first project where you were like, this is purposeful design, like this is it?
Honestly, I feel like what started my whole process of it was my senior thesis in undergrad because I
Mm,
was there are were some professors that were very encouraging and to tell my story and everything, but there was also another professor who kind of challenged me to really be confident in what I'm saying, also be factual, like back myself up with the research that I've done,
mhm,
because he would then ask me like questions about immigration, like the policies surrounding it, and I've had to like learn to push back and kind of get into my own and be like, no, well, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about identity. This then connects to that. So I feel like in that way, and I always had to present this like every week in front of like, the faculty and the my cohorts and everything.
mhm,
So from then, I really found out like the real work it takes to be genuine in that you want it to mean something. And
mhm,
also you have to be ready to defend yourself and also be ready that what you say and what you do and what you make might have like a effect where it makes people uncomfortable or other people don't see themselves in this type of art or whatever type of design or art you're making, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to be represented. Not everyone has to be represented in everything. It's just those specific people that don't have the voice to be represented is important. And
mhm,
so I had to really work on that, work on being strong and like what I'm doing and every design choice I make and like what was the meaning behind it and why did I do this? Because it's not like
mhm,
you're doing something all like, very random. Like there is a specific way, there's a specific why when you're creating. And so I feel like that kind of set me up to get a lot more strength and confidence to continue doing that.
Mhm. I love that, and I think what you said about not every person has to be represented in every single thing you make is something I think as somebody in marketing and who's worked in design and, like, especially curating for, like, a magazine,
Mhm,
that is something that I feel like I have not struggled with, but, like, come across. I know I was working on a project with a few artists for a mural, and it was for a nonprofit, and they really wanted to have, like, diversity included, but, like, diversity of, like, ability and, representing the queer community and representing, like, all the different skin tones that there are and just, like, all these different boxes, and it was like a multiple panel mural, but they wanted everything in every single one. And
mhm,
like you said, like, you don't have to, like, always be serving every single person when there's, like, 1, so many different ways to do it and, like, so
mhm,
many chances to do it. Because I feel like sometimes and I think I've seen some brands try to check every single box, and then at the end of it, it just feels like they're checking boxes and not like they're trying to truly integrate
mhm.
people into it, and I think that's such a hard balance, and I don't it's something that I think is also hard to communicate to people, especially people who maybe don't identify with a minority group in
Mhm.
any way. How have you had those conversations, and what does that look like as you get feedback, especially that they're like, "Oh, well, I'm not represented," but, like, the people that you're trying to bring into the conversation are?
Yeah, I had to, deal with comments about, "Oh, well, I mean, we're all in the United States, so this kind of affects me."
Mhm,
Immigration in general. And I'm like, yes, I understand that. But what I'm talking about is immigrants who had to travel that hard and harsh distance with who knows what happened in that journey to get to the United States. That's one experience. Someone else's experience could be not having like parents in your home country. So that's why you had to go. You're fleeing violence or you're feeling like economic disparity or social issues. Like there are
mhm,
just so many things that are happening that are very genuine to that one person. And that's their story, and that's fine. You don't have to absolutely completely relate to them,
mhm,
but it is important to be empathetic towards other people's stories so that you can have a better understanding. Which is why I also make it a huge point in anything I do is that this does like anything I design is not something to make you like, you know, make you feel bad about something. I if you don't understand truly or if you have never really had to think about immigration in general or Latin identities as like a white male, that's fine. Like I don't expect you to, but at least you're seeing it now. You're
mhm,
getting educated, you're getting an understanding of what is happening or this person you're knowing their story and you kind of like can get a bit more self-reflection. You can be a bit more self-aware of what you say or what you do in the future because you were exposed to
mhm,
this certain design and this person's story.
yeah,
I believe that design is huge in education. I
mhm,
feel like it should be used more in communicating. I don't want anyone to feel bad about, seeing anything, even if it does make you uncomfortable. I mean, that's kind of how it is, and
yeah,
that's okay. It's not really like this was made for you to make you feel uncomfortable. No, like this is how I feel. It's very personal, it's very vulnerable. If you have a second to like really understand where I'm coming from, if you don't agree, okay, well, thank you for allowing me to, be in this space, share my story, share my design, and then, have a good day, go on with your life. It doesn't have to be this huge thing where, oh my God, like uh I don't know, I don't agree with this. That's fine. Like everybody has their own opinions. Everybody has like their right to feel in a certain way. Um but I've had to have conversations where it's okay, like you don't feel represented. It's fine. Like this wasn't specifically made for you. It was made for another group of individuals who were able to share their own stories with me and that I wanted to communicate with everybody else.
yeah, yeah, and I mean that saying, everyone says it and it's been around forever for a good reason, that you don't grow when you're in your comfort zone, or you don't grow without growing pains or uncomfort or discomfort. Um, I think I love how you open it up for dialogue too. You're saying like, and I'm hearing it's okay if you don't understand it, and there's like room for you to understand it.
Mhm.
I um my husband and he's a white man and I am a woman of color, and I think especially as we talk about like spaces we want to put ourselves in, like we were church shopping for a while earlier this year, and like as we like kind of decided on our home church, I was like, I love that there are other mixed families here, and I love that like someday when we have kids, that like our kids will be surrounded by like other people who also look like them, because that's something that me growing up, I didn't necessarily always have other kids who looked like me or any kids of color or anything like that. And I know what that feeling is like, and I don't want my kids to have that. And like that was something that he was like, initially he was like, why, like, I'm not looking, like, I'm looking for, like, good people, and I feel like, with good people, like, there's just diversity, because like, I think when you have good spaces, whatever, and we, like, had the dialogue about it, but he was like, "That's something I didn't like, I've never had to think about that," or
Mhm.
things like that, and I so appreciate it, especially because I feel like, I mean, my kids are gonna be mixed to some degree, obviously, um, like, creating more spaces for people to be able to ask questions and, like, be exposed to other experiences, especially through design. I think when you talk about design being a communication tool, or the way that design communicates, is so big, because it can be personal and it can be vulnerable, and I think a lot about how, like, our magazine, like, a lot of our articles are personal essays, and we've done some, and I mean, I love the ones that where we, like, and really just, I don't know, like the numbers things. But I also think that people connect and like hear so deeply when they know it's coming from a person,
Yes.
or it's coming to them in a way that like they can approach and they can digest. And you're talking about design being so vital in like education, because I mean, we could dive into like, if it's like super text heavy, not everyone has like the same reading comprehension, but
Mhm.
like with something like design, like that helps to connect and like fill some of those gaps. And I think that it's something I feel like I've always just like kind of thought about but have never verbalized, and so I so appreciate the way that you are bringing that to light. How are you able to kind of bring some of that to like your everyday work?
I feel like, oh, actually, I was working on this small project a couple weeks ago, back in like October, and it was just a simple poster, creating templates for a poster where someone could just go in and drag and drop their whatever their information is.
Mhm,
And the other design lead that I was talking with, both or all three of the posters were all of white women. Um,
mhm,
and so we kind of were like, oh, okay. This is, at first glance, we didn't think anything about it, but then we were like, I feel like it'd be a lot more purposeful if there was a woman of color here or even a man here, and something, along those lines. And we even like expressed our opinions on that, and it was like a simple poster. It was fine. And
mhm,
then we were told, oh, well, it's okay. Like, I mean, it's just three poster templates. I think it's fine. And so we're like, okay, that's fine. And then we kind of were done with it. And I just got an email about it again, having to edit it one more time. I think it was last week. And lo and behold, they changed up the posters on like the photographs of the posters, and it was like a woman of color, a white woman, and then a man. And
mhm,
so if we hadn't said anything, then it would have just stayed the same. And
mhm,
I feel like even though like some people might think that it's like a small little detail, I feel like it's that detail makes all the difference, because now we've introduced a bit more purpose and a bit more diversity into those posters in itself. And so I really do try and make it a point when I'm like able to bring that type of mindset to design or any projects that I'm working on, um,
mhm,
to bring that. And if it's like, rejected, then it's fine. But at least I was able to kind of voice my own opinion and try to, get to that point or try to like put that in a bit more.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it's the space and the confidence to take that space and ask the questions. I think even sometimes, like, as I feel pretty confident in where I am in my career, that like I still sometimes even get nervous asking silly questions that really aren't that silly because then they lead to different viewpoints and
Oh, definitely. I feel like a lot of times, so, I mean, sometimes I still struggle with this, like huge imposter syndrome, but then I always had to like reflect back, like, no, you did the work, you have the experience, you're here for a reason.
Mhm.
And so, and even though like I may slip up and like think about it again, I feel like that just always happens sometimes. And it's good to talk about, but it's also good to really like, okay, come back. You again, you did X, Y, and Z. You got your degree. You did all these different things. So like, have that confidence. Continue with that confidence, and it's okay to slip up every now and again. Just remind yourself of all those key components of why you're doing what you're doing and how you got here. Because you got here because you put in the work.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I can't think of a better way to kind of tie up this first part of our interview. I love that. Just the confidence in yourself and reminding yourself that you deserve to be the space, deserve to be taking the space that you were taking and that you've put the work in. So that's amazing. Heidi, thank you so much. I'm so excited to continue chatting and digging deeper together. And is there anything that you think that might be worth noting, places to get started if you're interested in pursuing a purposeful design career?
Honestly, I feel like Behance is a great resource to really just get yourself into the nick of things. Behance, dribble.com. YouTube tutorials are great too. Like, please do not ever think that a YouTube tutorial is not going to take you anywhere, because those are like the free holy grails of anything. If you don't know something, if you feel like, oh, well, I didn't go to art school or I didn't do that, it's fine. I've known plenty of people who literally changed their career and are now designers, and they changed their careers at 25 or like 20. So you can really do whatever you want to do as long as you put in the work and effort and really like trying and get these resources and use them in practice. Um, but yeah, those are like my main three things. And also like even reach out to different people. Like Ariana and I didn't know each other until, she reached out to me. And recently I got an email from someone on LinkedIn who wanted to ask me about how I got my job at Deloitte and what are the things that I put in my portfolio. So I was happy to like give that advice, talk to her. We set up a Zoom meeting, so just like ask people. The worst they can do was not read it or just say, "Hey, I don't have time, but maybe next time." Like, at least you tried and at least you're reaching out.
Yes, you never know if you don't ask. I love it. That's awesome. And Heidi mentioned she's on LinkedIn. Are you anywhere else that we can send the masses to follow you and check out your work?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Behance. I have my own website. It's HeidiLopez.xyz. Email me, and yeah, I'll respond. Don't be shy.
Amazing. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining, and I can't wait to dig deeper with you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.